How to achieve freedom. Freedom is one of the most basic desires of humans, right? Of any biological being almost. Most animals, really think about the fish in the fish tank, think about the animals in the zoo. All they want is freedom. And even as humans, we just want freedom in so many ways. We want financial freedom, we want time freedom, we want all the freedom. We just want to not have to listen to other people. We want to be able to say fuck you. We want to be able to just not have people bound us. We don't want to be bounded. We don't want to be limited. We want that freedom to roam around, like think about our ancestors. They're just roaming around, hunting, gathering. That's the life that we actually want. And in modern society, obviously, we're not going around hunting all the time and gathering berries. Instead, we work jobs, and we are a cog in the system of society, and we provide, we take care, we nurture, and if anything, despite the advancements of technology and how much further along we have made it than our ancestors, we are still less free than them because we willingly remain in lives and work and jobs and careers and schools that we genuinely don't want to be in, right? We remain in these experiences and relationships that we might not actually want, right? And so we're still chained down. We're not roaming around, we're not traveling, we stay in one place, we go to work every day, then we go home and pass out. Like, this is the average American life. We work too hard because we want to make money, we want to uphold the American dream, want to do all the things. And that's the recipe for anti-freedom. It's the recipe for working until you can't work anymore and still not being able to probably pay for the bills. That's the reality now with the way that with the way that everything's going, And so freedom has its own kind of definition, right? My definition of freedom will never be able to compare to your definition of freedom, right? Because some people already have some sense of freedom, Some people have freedoms that other people don't. Some people have financial freedom already, maybe they were born rich. Some people might have time freedom already. Maybe they built a successful business and now they can just kind of relax and travel whenever they want, wherever they want, with whoever they want. But not all people have that. Most people don't have that. Most people lack freedom. Most people don't have any semblance of freedom in their lives. And so I hope that you can take away something from this video to actualize freedom in your life and to understand the process of achieving freedom in a world where most people don't feel free. All right, the first thing is to define freedom for yourself. So a lot of people on the internet will tell you that, oh, you just want financial freedom, you just want time freedom, you just want location freedom. But those are very broad, basic, and hard to wrap your arms around. So what I want you to do is take out a piece of paper and actually define freedom for yourself. Like, what does the life look like where you're 100% free from everything, right? What kind of job would you be working? Who would you be hanging out with? Where would you be living, right? If there was no, if you got an unlimited amount of money and time and you could go wherever you wanted, like, where would you live? What would you do for work? Would you work? Who would you spend time with, right? Answer these questions and keep digging. Go as detailed as possible. Like, what kind of foods would you eat? What kind of movies would you watch? What would you do as hobbies? What kind of clothes would you wear? Like, go as detailed as possible into your vision of freedom. And so the reason why this works is because it goes so much deeper than just saying, oh yeah, I just want financial freedom, bro. Oh, I just want location freedom, dude. Oh, I want to be an entrepreneur so that I can have time freedom. Instead of just boxing yourself into one of these guru terms, one of these buzzwords, instead define it for yourself, right? Because when you operationalize a word like freedom for yourself, then it becomes a lot clearer to you to know what you're actually working towards. You actually know what the hell you're doing. You know that there's a purpose behind the madness. You know that you're doing this hard thing now because of the freedom that you want. Because you desire these things. You already are aware of them. And so the point of this first exercise is that you're becoming aware of what you perceive as freedom, and this gives you a goal, an outcome to chase, right? And then now you know what these goals are, you know what these ideas are, you know what this life is. And so now you can define the inputs that will lead to those outputs. You can define what steps you need to take behaviorally to get there, right? Let's say you want to live in I don't know, you want to go live in Madagascar and study what kind of animals live in Madagascar. Like you want to go to live in Madagascar and study lemurs or something, right? Because that's like your true life's passion, but instead you're in Chicago working a 9 to 5, at a company because you got to pay for the bills. You're miserable. The fucking traffic is terrible. The food is kind of mid. You're kind of tired of deep dish pizza. Yeah, you're kind of miserable, but your true calling is in Madagascar to study lemurs. And so you've defined your idea of freedom, right? Going to Madagascar to study lemurs and make that your life's work cannot be bottled up into time freedom, location freedom, or financial freedom, right? It's its own unique kind of freedom, right? And it's a one that you can only define for yourself. And when you have this clarity of operation, you know what is your definition of freedom, then you know how you can get there. So what are the steps you can take to be able to move to Madagascar, to be able to study fucking lemurs? Well, you might need a degree so that you can get a license to study these lemurs. You might need to start saving up so that you can afford the expenses of living in Madagascar, traveling to Madagascar. You might need to figure out how to disconnect from your family and reconnect with your family back in the US or wherever you're from, right? You need to. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter where you go. It doesn't matter what you perceive as freedom, what your goal for freedom is. As long as you operationalize it for yourself, as long as it's not an idea of freedom that you've stolen and been influenced into believing, right? Because everyone on the internet can scream and shout all day long about what freedom should mean, but who the hell cares, right? That's their idea of freedom. Your idea of freedom is your own. It's unique. It's one of one. There's not a single person that has ever lived, that will ever live, that will have the same idea of freedom as you, right? I guarantee you, it's like DNA. Like there's so many variables, and to desire, to human experience, to the way that we formulate our perceptions of reality, that no matter what, your idea of freedom will always be unique. It'll always be yours. And so with that frame, you can then define your freedom and operationalize the behaviors you can take to get there. The next thing to achieve freedom, this one is universal. I don't care who you are. I don't care where you're from. I don't care what you're doing for work. This is a must. If you want to achieve freedom, this is a must. It's work in intense seasons directed towards your freedom. So what does that mean? Most people try to achieve work-life balance in a day, and it never works because days are chaotic. There's so many variables that you cannot control, that you cannot predict, that you cannot avoid, and as a result, your turmoil with work-life balance on a day-to-day basis is doomed to fail because of how chaotic life is on a day-to-day. But when you extend life out across a long amount of time. So like months, years, decades, right? You start to realize and you look back, right? Look back on the past decade of your life. You look back and you're like, okay, some really bad things happened. I'm sure some pretty bad shit happened to you, right? But at the same time, it wasn't actually all that bad, right? It was bad, but it wasn't that bad. But imagine you compare that feeling of it's okay, it's not as bad as I thought, to whenever you were experiencing it. Like that day when the bad thing happened, or that week or that month when the bad thing happened, how did you feel? Probably absolutely terrible, like deep into the trenches, right? And so the reason why you can't have work-life balance on a short time span is because life is chaotic and we are emotional, we have feelings, we have perceptions of reality, we have senses, and we are exposed to the difficulties and the sufferings of life every single day. And we can't control a lot of it. And so your work-life balance is basically never going to work. It's never going to actually work on a day-to-day basis. So you extend it out on a longer time horizon. So instead of trying to achieve work-life balance every day, achieve work-life balance every year, right? So like you can work and sprint and hustle for like maybe a year or two, and then you can take a few months off, a few months to just relax and go to the beach and sip coconuts. Like, it's a crazy idea, but I mean, you need to be radical when you realize that work-life balance doesn't work for anybody. You need to be radical. You need to be willing to make these intense periods of work and have the intense periods of recovery. Because think about an athlete, right? They can't sprint for the entire race. They can't sprint for the entire match. They have to recover. They have to take a breather. Otherwise, they're going to get injured. They're going to get burnt out. They're going to get fatigued, and they're never going to perform up to their peak. So what most people do is they just work, and never, ever take a break and take a moment to relax. And their idea of relaxing is sleep whenever they're actually sleep deprived. And the reason why this doesn't work is because, dude, you're human. You're biological. You have limitations. You can't just work like a machine. You're not programmed. You have emotions. You have perceptions of the world. You have relationships. You have things you care about. You're not just programmed to do the same thing like a machine. And the cool thing is, you can actually make machines do the things that require no effort. That's like automation delegation shit. But yeah, if you want to achieve freedom, it's not about working 16 hours a day for 10 years in a row. It's not that. It's literally about directing your time into sprints and allocating time to recovery. Because whenever you work, your work is only as good as your recovery is, right? If you're not recovering, your work is just going to be a constant diminish. It's going to constantly diminish, and you're never going to actually get anywhere. Because at some point you'll reach a threshold where you're working the same amount of hours, the same amount of level of intensity, but you're not getting anything out of it. You're literally not getting a single thing out of it. And so you need to realize that if you want to achieve freedom, working your ass off and hustling just because everyone else is doing it, just because you want to feel productive, is not the answer. The answer is to sprint for a certain period of time and then recover for a certain period of time. And then if you've defined your idea of freedom and you know what you want from your life, you know the life you want to live in a shockingly detailed collage, then, and you can apply intense work and intense recovery to that, dude, you're going to achieve freedom. I can't tell you how long it's going to take. I can't tell you how hard it's going to be, but I know that you will get there. Goodbye.